So got a bit of forensic psychology for you now. I think this is what we're going to call it, forensic psychology. It's where I beg to disagree with half of the archaeologists over prehistoric and history study. You know, people in the groups who, you know, archaeologists and so forth, they can pick up, you know, an old ring coin or an old, you know, bit of flint or something, and, you know, they test it in the laboratory, you know. But at the end of the day, it's a piece of flint. Now they're looking at it to see where it's from. What they do, the experts, is they test it chemically to get a number, an age, so then they can see what the time. Because you can say, you know, it's an arrowhead, or you could say it looks like, you know, a shoehorn, or you could say that it looks like a belt buckle, or you could say that it looks like a bottle top. So that is shape and form. What is the item identified as? So it could be, you know, a carving or a piece of pottery. So that's you're naming it, and it is a thing which we know because it has a form. And when we're humans, we recognize these forms because even though these things are very, very old and ancient, humans use them. They're not, you know, animal droppings from the dinosaurs. That's, you know, animal matter. When we find a shaped item, you know, a toothbrush, a bottle of shampoo, a roller skate, it's got a name. It is identified. And then they want a date. So then they can say this is a flint from 140 BC or from 2000 BC. And then they put it in a box with a load of other flints from around a similar date, even though you find them in Shetland, Newquay, Cornwall, Wales. And then they put them all in a nice box and they say, right, here is an assortment of flint axe heads from 2000 BC from around England. They're all from the same period. Let's compare them all. Are they similar design? Or then they say, look, they're all using different designs, even though they're all from the same time around England. Or they could say, come to the conclusion that they are all a similar design and shape. So they were all using the same design. This is how they come to conclusions. And then they say, this is a fact. But when we're doing forensic psychology, they don't like it because you can't touch anything. There's nothing to... They can't... well, you know, if it's in Shetland and then you find, you know, another piece of it in Cornwall... You know, at which route did they go? You know, unless you get a dog to sniff it out, you know, get the dog to sniff the scent, you know, they can say, well, you know, this item, it could fit perfectly. Oh, here's half of the cup, the same cup. They both fit together perfectly. This is the same cup. It's been broken in half. Half of it was in Cornwall and half of it was in Shetland. It fits perfectly. What are the chances of that, right? So they can say that this cup, unless someone's done a very good forgery, it is the same cup. And how did it get there? Well, we don't know what exact route it took, but we know that it travelled from this point to that point. You know, now, when we're doing forensic psychology, that is what we're doing, but with ideas, with thoughts, with meaning. Now, the thing is, if you've got an idea, right, you cannot touch an idea. You cannot touch an idea. Elon Musk wants to be able to share them ideas and touch them, but, well, you can speak it. But the thing with an idea is it's only an idea, you know, like an analogy. It hasn't taken shape or form, right? But you can, when humans make things, they put their thoughts into what they're making. they put their ideas into what they're making, what they're thinking, and what they're doing, right? So you look for evidence, right? Evidence. Now, unfortunately, some scientists don't have this ability. They don't have the skill, the capacity. And they actually, even if you did show them it, they still wouldn't believe you because they can't even see the evidence, or they don't believe the evidence is substantial. Even though the idea or the picture might fit perfectly, like two halves of a broken cup fit together, they aren't convinced that that idea, even though it fits the other idea, is from the same source or is related, because it's of an essence where they you can never touch, you can't really. It's more like a print. It's more like, but scientists will believe prints. If a scientist comes across, like, where a snake's been crawling across the sand, a footprint, right, or an animal track, the scientist gets a clay. The scientist gets a clay mold, and he pours it into the sand, and he takes a casting of it, right? And then he looks at the form of the paw, and he says, "Oh, this is a fox's print." How do you know that? Because it's shaped like a fox's. He'll believe the shape of the paw print because it's the same shape as a fox's, and he can put them next to each other. But when you have an idea written down on paper, like, someone draws a picture of a fox, and then someone else draws a picture of a fox, and you put them together, the two foxes. The thing is, when you start getting into what we call art still is a mark, trademark. A trademark, a mark, a picture. When is a picture a trademark, and when is a trademark become a picture? Well, that's what we're into now with the VAT on the printed matter, right? It's subjective. Now, for subjective, you need interpretation, right? And everyone interprets things differently. It would be interesting a novel if everyone interpreted the English language differently whenever they looked at letters, but we've all been taught to interpret it a specific way so that we read it off the paper and it means the same to us. You could get the alphabet, what we use, the letters of the alphabet, and you could make up completely new sounds for them, and you could make up completely new, meanings. And you could teach it to, some children in, reunion or wherever, and who's never had any contact with an English-speaking people. And, when they get a book out to read it, one of our books, they would read it as if they thought they were reading it perfectly fine, but in a completely different language they've been taught, with different syllables and sounds for each letter. Now, the novel thing with pictures and photos is that when you get a camera and take a photograph of a scene, a setting, it is what it is. The sky is the sky, the ground's the ground, and, the hills are the hills. It's line, shape, and form. You don't have letters. We have words when we discuss and communicate it, but if you keep your mouth shut and don't speak, when you look at it, it is what it always has been and what it is, right? And then, when you do Cub Scouts, you've got arrows. Can you read arrow signs? Put three twigs on the floor for arrows. Now, the problem with art and art history and interpreting artwork is that it's freedom of expression. It's a free form medium. So it rather than letters are a fixed meaning, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, with art, you liberate the meaning so it can form new meanings, or add, and it can have multiple meanings and so forth. Now, there can be a lot of arguments over art interpretation. The problem is that when you get into this field of study, you're getting into exploring what people are thinking and where they get their ideas from and what their influences are. And if there is any content in there, any subjective material, you have two types of subjective material: those that you want to discuss and talk about, and those that you don't want to discuss and talk about, right? And the problem is, we start exploring and we can get into the area of subject material that they don't want to talk about, or maybe they did not realise. But that's the thing. There are, then you've got, things that are subconscious or that you didn't know, or you claim you didn't know, and there are things that you did know. So it can be complicated, but if you have the knack for it, and if you are quite confident, and if you have had success before, all it takes is a little bit of, it isn't actually any more difficult than in fact, it's actually a lot more advanced and highly skilled than merely seeing a fox's footprint in the floor. Because, you're looking for the print of someone's mind. You're looking for a mind print, but not in the way that Elon Musk might try to find it, to see your aura with a scan, or with a brain scan, or, have it pop up on a computer screen with all flashing colours in a very complicated pattern, or a CT thing. You're looking for people who go around doing things, making movies, making films, drawing pictures, writing books, and you're looking for their signature trademark, their signature meanings, and so forth. Now, there's been some, I'll get to the point now of putting this into application, right? There's been some, we're having some arguments over this town centre redevelopment in our area, and we've got this market, and it's got these African-style motifs on it. And then I didn't really know too much about the artist, but I've just, learned a little bit about him. And he's actually German. He's from Germany. But he knocked around in England for a while, Birmingham, Stratford. And he also went to Africa and knocked around. And then he came back. He went back to Germany. Now, he designed this African motif. Now, it turns out, if you analyse the material and look for the dates of when he made this design, and if you look for the dates, you'll find that it's around the time of, he went to, when he was knocking around these art colleges in Birmingham and so forth, and then going to Africa. It's around the time when the Zulu film came out, which was a very, very big film with Michael Caine. In fact, I've never actually seen it before because I never bothered to watch it, but I've heard of it. I was aware of it because everyone's always doing that Michael Caine joke, don't shake that bloody spear at me joke, right? It's like Shakespeare. Michael Caine is an actor, it's theatre. Shakespeare wrote plays, Shakespeare, that's his name. There's a Robert De Niro joke in that Stardust film about that as well, So this is the thing. Now, inspecting this, one of the, we don't know whether this is legitimate, as someone conjured this up last week and planted it. Was this really printed? Can you find some old postcards of this, I'm going on the basis of that this is legitimate and this was actually published. It's on the internet now. Someone could have planted this yesterday. This is the thing. Someone could have planted this yesterday and knocked it up, and, someone might have the poster of this that's actually old and original, or someone might can remember this poster and verify it, a witness statement. But if we go on, let's go on the basis of that this is one of the actual original Zulu promo, what you'll find that the letters are in a 3D brown block shape with carvings on the front face. And what you'll find is, in fact, here we have them. We have square, three-dimensional blocks with carvings on the front face of them. Right? There we go. Now, I strongly believe that that is a piece of evidence which correlates from around the same day. It's within the date range of this man being at these colleges around the time the Zulu film came out, and knocking around between Birmingham, and also you had all the, Spaghetti Junction was being built around that time as well, the concrete jungle. Now, that's what they call it. They call it the concrete jungle. It's known as the concrete jungle, right? And Michael Caine, that film's well known. It was well known at the time, for spear jokes. Don't shake that bloody spear at me, Shakespeare. Concrete jungle, spear, Zulus. So this artist was from Germany. He came to England and studied art. He ended up doing the designs for this. There is a forensic scientific match in correct date correlation, and a correct match of a print, like you might get a fox's print on the floor, right, that suggests that it could be, with not beyond reasonable doubt, to think that the artist was influenced by this picture and he possibly saw it. You could ask him if he remembers, or the other way around, he did that artwork and then it influenced the film, whichever came first. But they're within a year or two, and in history, when you're looking for things like this, it's too close. It's too close to be not relevant. It's relevant. It's a match. I'm satisfied that it is a close enough match. Also, another thing. In the title on this postcard, if we're to believe that this postcard is legitimate from the time, it says, dwarfing the mightiest and towering over the greatest. But this is a film about Zulu. This is a film about Zulus and Michael Caine in Africa. But it says dwarfing the mightiest, but towering over the greatest. Well, what a absolute complete coincidence and chance, because we've got the Embley Mortar Mast, which is was the tallest building in all Europe, which went up around 1971-ish, right? Now, if this Zulu was just before then you could think that, people watching this movie everywhere in cinemas all around the country, and Michael Caine being a famous actor, that could have had an influence. Another thing I want to point out about the mast and other things in our area is that they've got these exclamation marks here in a very unique style, a very distinctive exclamation marks here. And the thing with our area in the ancient sites is we've got the Long Barrow Hill Fort, and then we've got the other hill fort as well that's been built over and covered up. And they're both really close next to each other. And one of them has got a point on it and is almost like it is that shape. It actually is that shape, like the top of that exclamation mark, right? So I'm instantly interested in this photograph. It's even got a little kind of Liberty sort of shaped character on the top of there, right? So I'm very, very interested in this picture because it's got shape and form in it